Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. Have you ever wondered when your potatoes or carrots are ready to harvest? Well, today I'm going to take you along with me as I go into my raised bed garden and see what's hiding under the soil. I'll show you exactly what to look for when it's time to harvest. We'll talk about how to cure your potatoes for long-term storage and why you don't have to harvest potatoes or carrots all at once. Before we see what's hiding underground, I'm going to invite everybody to please like and subscribe to my channel. Doing that helps me grow my channel, helps me connect with more gardeners just like you. So I'd appreciate you doing that. So the first step today is we're going to go in my greenhouse and get the supplies we need to harvest these potatoes and carrots. Now, well, the good news is you don't need much in terms of supplies to dig potatoes and carrots. I brought my shovel. You have to be really careful if you choose to use a shovel. I doubt that I'll use it, but I want to have it just in case. I garden in a raised bed, and so usually the soil's fairly light and fluffy. And then I've got some other hand tools that I'll use. I've got my harvest basket here and of course some gloves. So that's really it. So let's get in there and see what's under that soil. I thought we'd start with harvesting our potatoes today, and before I start to show you what to look for to determine when it might be time to lift your potatoes, for those of you that are new to my channel, I happen to garden in a zone 6B here in mid-Missouri. We have hot and humid summers. I'm out here at not even 7:30 in the morning because it has been super hot where we live. I know a lot of you have been struggling in the heat as well. I love to get out here early in the morning and get most of my heavy gardening done to beat the heat. And the other thing I wanted to share with you all is that I love to plant all kinds of things in this raised bed garden. Veggies, herbs, and flowers. I believe in using all different kinds of plants to draw in lots of beneficial insects, to draw in, all kinds of birds and pollinators and things like that. I just feel like for me in my garden, it really helps my plants be healthy. So, okay, let's talk about the two types of potatoes I'm growing this year. On this end here in the middle of this arch are my Yukon Gold, and I have three plants on the other end of the arch called Kennebec. Both of those varieties do particularly well in Missouri, and so wherever you are, if you're going to try to grow potatoes, just talk to your local nurseries and find out, or your local extension office, and find out what are the best varieties in your region. All right, let's give you all a closer look. So I love this raised bed. This is 4 foot wide by 8 foot long, and my husband created this arch out of very sturdy cattle panel. That is our preferred method for any kind of trellising. It's not horribly expensive and it's really sturdy. So let's see what's growing in this bed besides the potatoes, which are down the center. I've got some parsley, I've got some marigolds, the French style, that are really great to repel bad insects. On this side of the trellis, I'll just come down here, I have green beans growing, and these are the Blue Lake green beans. So look at what they're doing. I mean, they have grown and grown and grown, and now they're all the way on the top of the trellis. If I make my way around here, of course, here are the potatoes again, some more marigolds. And let's take a look at this side. And here's another crop I am growing. And I think I brought you along when I planted out my cucumber seeds. Look at the dew on the edges. I mean, isn't that beautiful? Anyhow, these cucumbers are called tender green. I need to get seeds in later today because I'm trying to do succession sowing, which means you sow some seeds and let them grow, and 2 or 3 weeks later you come back and sow another crop. So I need to do that later. But again, these cucumbers are going to grow up just like the green beans on this side and over the trellis. All right, I promised you I would talk about when to harvest, what to be looking for. There are lots of different ways to do this. One of the ways that's most common is you look for your plant to start drying out. And These are looking a little bit soggy because we got a rain shower last night. But when they start to crisp up a little bit, that can be an indicator. When they start to flower, which let me zoom in down there, that can be an indicator. And I'm not sure what's happening down here with this Kennebec. I'm trying to film this through the screen, but do you see that plant? That's definitely dried up. So I think I'm going to dig that Kennebec and see what's under the soil there. And I think we'll concentrate with this one on the end. The main thing is you want to just move the soil away and start taking a peek and see if you can see some potatoes. Look at that. There are the potatoes right there. So what's really important is that your potatoes stay covered. A lot of people, like I, like to mound either soil over them or in this case, this straw mulch. You wanna not expose your potatoes to sunlight. When they get exposed to sunlight, they will turn green. They develop a toxin that can sometimes hurt your digestion. The other thing you want to consider when you're wondering, is it time to harvest, besides what your plants look like, know your variety and do a little search or ask your somebody at the nursery where you buy your seed potatoes. In the case of my Yukon Golds, I believe they are like a 50 to 80 day until harvest, and I think the Kennebecs are more like 60 to 90. I planted these out, I think, I keep a calendar, I didn't look earlier today, but I think I planted these out like probably mid-April. Here we are early July. So what would that be? May, June, July, not quite 90 days for both varieties. So it is time to see what's under the soil. All right, this is going to be a little tricky for me to show you, because you know I love to densely plant my beds. So, you know, I might have to push the parsley to the side so that you all can get a good look at what is happening here. All right, so Yukon Gold. Let's take a look and see what's happening. I will grab my garden gloves. You all that watch my videos know I'm not a huge glove fan. I just can't feel good enough when my hands have gloves on them, but for this job, probably a best idea to get my gloves on. All right, let me move that little stake out of the way and push back the mulch. You know I love to use straw mulch around my veggies. I also love to use leaf litter that we harvest in the fall from our fallen leaves. Okay, so look at this. So really, I can see right here on the top, potatoes. Look at those Yukon Gold. So let me get my little harvest basket here. Put that on the ground and they're gonna go right in. And interesting, I wanna see if you guys can see this on the camera. But this right here looks slightly green compared to the rest of this potato. And that's because that was barely exposed to sunlight. And that's what can happen. Now this is perfectly fine. That's just a teeny tiny, barely tinged with green, but that's why you wanna make sure throughout the time you're growing your potatoes that you make sure they're fully covered with soil or mulch. Oh, look at this. So you can see here, I'm using my hand first, and that's the preferred method if you can. But now I'm going to come in here and gently use, oh my goodness, look at that. Wowzer. That's a biggie. All right, so there are a lot of bigger potatoes in here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try to lift this whole thing out by using my shovel, and I'm gonna come way far away from the center of the plant and see how that works. All right, shovel, where'd I put you? Okay, here we go. You wanna try not to pierce the potatoes, because honestly, I don't know what I'm going to discover. And that is the fun of harvesting crops like this. You never know exactly what you might find. So let's see, I've loosened it up, move some of this out of the way, and let's see what I find. Ooh-wee. Look at this one. Those are interesting. That's not a crack. but look at how that grew. All right, let me lift up and do a little shake. All right, here are some. Here's one right here in the center. Here's a little sweet one. Look at these little babies. So they would probably continue to grow and develop. Oh, I broke that one, didn't I? So when you do something like this, I'm going to probably end up using this potato pretty soon because if it has anything like that on it, a broken spot, a crack, exposed in the interior, you want to, they won't store well. You want to use those rather quickly. All right, so let's see what else I've got under here. I feel like I saw another potato, but maybe not. Maybe that's all from this plant. Oop, there's a little one. Nope. If anything else is hiding out. The other thing that is recommended is when you're harvesting your potatoes, you do it when the ground is fairly, what do we want to say? Fairly dry. Like this isn't bone dry soil, but the reason for that is that your potatoes will dry out quicker and store better than when they're super wet. All right, well, I think that is that on this plant. So I'm going to push the soil back in because you know me, I've got to find something that to replace these potatoes that I'll be planting here in the next couple of weeks after I complete the harvest. So we'll push the soil back over right here and I might move on to this one. I'm not sure. Or maybe I'm going to leave that. I think maybe we'll go down there and look at that Kennebec and see what's under the soil there. So how's this for a camera angle? I've got my camera under the arch on the other side where we were just down by the Yukon Gold. And so let's take a look at this Kennebec. And yes, everybody, I know it's not the easiest to harvest potatoes under a tunnel, but I use every square inch of my garden for growing, and it's, in my opinion, worth it. All right, let's see what we're gonna discover. Oh my goodness. Let's pull away the soil. Ooh, I see potatoes on the surface here. Ooh, okay, I don't know. First, I'm gonna use my fingers. And interesting, I thought Kennebecs were red, but then I was reading the other day, and these particular Kennebecs are yellow, are white potatoes. Ooh wee, look at you guys. I'm seeing a lot here on the surface, no green because I've had them covered up in this beautiful straw. Let me use my little hand trowel and see if I can come around and gently loosen the soil. Oh yeah, this is so satisfying. It's so much fun. It's like a mystery. What are we going to discover? Oh boy. All right, so here we go. Oh, look at this one. See that? Okay. And you know, you could leave these in longer, but I kind of like a variety of sizes of potatoes. I don't know about you, but I, in the winter time, when I don't grow potatoes or I don't have many left, look at those. I love to buy those little bags of potatoes at the store, all the different colored potatoes, the little baby potatoes. They're so yummy for roasting. Again, there's a few little potatoes there. Let's see what else might be hiding under the soil. All right, so it wasn't the biggest harvest in the world, but that's okay. I am happy with that. And I would say, in comparison, the Yukon Golds certainly grew bigger than the Kennebec, and the Yukon Golds are the ones that are supposed to be ready sooner. So that information that I learned about online seemed to hold. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to stop here in the potato bed and we're going to move across our way here. And we're going to go to this raised bed because I have loads of carrots there that need harvesting. So let's take a look and see what's under the soil in that raised bed. Okay, here I am next to my carrot bed. This is one of my new Birdie's raised beds. This is almost 30 inches tall. And let me just say, as we get a little bit older, gardening and planting and harvesting out of tall raised beds is really nice. So anyhow, all right, so I have been harvesting these carrots off and on for at least a month now. I grew 3 different varieties, and let me put my tools down and let me see if I can find my plant tags. Oh, I think they're on this side. So let me share with you the varieties that I grew this year. Oh my gosh, it is time to get after these carrots. All right, new Carota, which I've grown a lot. Big, thick, orange, gorgeous, not super long. The glow stick moonrise, different colored ones, purple, yellow, and orange. And then what's the other one? Nantes, Nantes, if you grow those. You probably know how to pronounce it better than I do. Okay, so yeah, so typically carrots, from the time you put the seed in to the time you can start to harvest, it's usually, I think, what is it? 60 to 80 days. I sowed these seeds in March. April, May, June. So I started harvesting in June, which was about right. You know, the earlier you harvest, you get the baby carrots. The longer you wait, you get the big carrots. So let's see what I can find. Carrots can be a really fun crop to grow with kids. You know, most children love carrots, the beautiful sweetness. There is nothing like a fresh carrot. I mean, any of you out there, you're growing veggies because you know there is nothing like fresh. There is nothing as satisfying as going into your garden and harvesting something that you know that you grew that is going to be healthy and safe, free of chemicals for your family and yourself. I mean, look at that. Carrots can be really funny too, right? How they choose to grow underground. You can get all kinds of interesting shapes, and kids love that, right? As they're picking them. In fact, I have a little sweetie that I love and adore, a little person, and her mama promised her she could grow carrots this year, and I think if I can find the picture, I'll put a picture on the screen of Tegan harvesting her first carrots. And she was so proud. And then, of course, being the great mom that her mom is, she had Tegan in the kitchen washing up the carrots and preparing them for a meal. So, you know, if you got kids or grandkids, oh my gosh, so much for them to learn by growing things, spending time in the garden with you. What a wonderful thing to do for your kiddos, to get them to eat things they might not normally eat, but also so much science and math can be learned in the garden and, of course, even in the kitchen. Ooh, I finally found some of the Moonrise Glow Mix. Check out these purple ones. Whoa, love that. Some more purple. Here's a yellow one. Now that my harvest basket is pretty full, I'm going to head into the greenhouse. Let's go in there and I'm going to talk to you about how I like to prep these and also give you some tips and tricks on curing your potatoes if you want to do long-term storage. Now that we're in the greenhouse, I thought I might share with you all ways that I like to deal with my carrots and potatoes after I've harvested them. So let me share some of those tips with you now. So here we are in the greenhouse, and this is the opportunity for me to share with you all how I like to kind of take care of my carrots and potatoes after I've harvested them. So let's start with the carrots. I'm going to remove the tops, but not all of the top. So I'm only going to make a cut. Bring it in close, right about here. Doing this one-handed. Let's try it so you can see. I want to leave this much of the top on because this helps the carrot maintain moisture. So after this, after I do that to all the carrots, and then later I will, with my harvest basket here, do you see how it's got all these holes? I'll put it in the harvest basket, bring it up closer to the house, and I'll get the sprayer hose out and rinse off all the dirt. Perfectly fine to do with carrots. The other thing is, of course, we don't want to waste these tops, right? This is important, beautiful, organic matter. So you could, if you compost like I do, you could toss these into the compost heap, which is amazing for your soil. However, I happen to have a really sweet neighbor and she has chickens and all kinds of critters. And so I always, when I do a harvest like this and have all this green material, I'll send her a text, which I'll do in just a little bit, and say, hey, do your critters like carrot tops? If so, I'll bring you over a bunch for your animals. So, you know, I'm not just going to feed my family these beautiful carrots. I'm going to let my neighbor feed her critters some of the carrots. All right, so that's all I need to do here for now with the carrots. So let me get these processed real quick. This one definitely wins the prize for the biggest today. That is amazing. I mean, look at that for scale. What? Love it. So as I continue removing the tops of these carrots, I'd love to hear from you all. So please leave me some comments. Do you grow carrots? If yes, what variety do you like to grow? And how do you like to enjoy your carrots in cooking? Or, you know, do you eat them raw? Which of course, I love them raw. But what are some other ways that you use them? Carrots are so versatile, aren't they? I happen to love, love, love to roast my carrots. I roast a lot of my veggies in the oven, you know, toss them with some beautiful olive oil, some sea salt, and put them in a hot oven and roast them. Oh my gosh, it really brings out the natural sugars. Sometimes when I pull them out of the oven after I've roasted them, I will drizzle them with a little honey for extra sweetness. So let's take a look at this one so you can see how long this is. You can absolutely remove that now, or I tend to leave it on again because when you leave on these little long tips, you continue to create a barrier so that they stay moist. Carrots last a long, long time in the refrigerator. I don't know how long, but a long time. So these will be in there for a while, but I'll continue to harvest from my carrots for the next month. They really can stay in the ground much longer than you think. So again, I don't have to harvest these all at once. That's the beauty of this. Same thing with potatoes. You can start harvesting your potatoes when they're little tiny baby potatoes if you like that. And then as long as you're keeping your potatoes well covered with soil or mulch so that the sunlight doesn't hit them and turn them green, your potatoes will be okay in the ground for quite a long time as well. All right, looking like we got a nice pile of fresh carrots. Got a lot of carrot tops for my neighbors' chickens. Oh, we gotta keep this baby because, you know, I mean, not that we're competing or anything, but why not? As you can imagine, I find that carrots most tender when they're smaller. So that's why I like to harvest a variety of sizes. Whoops. Okay, pretty good pile of carrots. So let's move on. I want to talk to you about potatoes. Now it's time to deal with our potatoes. So unlike the carrots, which I'm going to rinse off before I bring them in the house, you don't want to rinse off your newly harvested potatoes because you want them to dry naturally. This dirt on here, let it dry out. It'll help protect. If you start to scrub these now or try to hose them off, you will remove the skin because the skin is paper thin. In fact, if I bring this in real close, you can see even handling it, I pulled the skin back. And that makes it really hard for them to dry out. Now, my little modest harvest, I'm not going to cure these because I'm not going to store these long term. These are going to be used in the next 2 or 3 days. So in that case, it doesn't matter so much. But I do want to sort of do a quick little demo. If you do harvest and you want to cure them and store them long term, here's how I like to do that. You want to place them in a container that has plenty of holes for air circulation. Cardboard boxes work great as well. You just want to punch a bunch of holes in there. All right, so that's super important. Whatever you put them in, you want them to have some airflow. However, you want to keep them covered. No light. They need to be in darkness. And what I like to do is grab some old pillowcases. I have lots of old linens, do you guys, that you don't use anymore. And so you can line your box, whatever you choose, with something like old sheets, old linens. If you happen to have burlap, which I never happen to have, but if you have burlap, several layers of burlap, it's nice and breathable, so is cotton. But in the burlap, you want to make sure you use several layers because you want no light getting to your potatoes. And so, yeah, so you would just take your potatoes, put them in your container, just like so. I'm not taking off any of that dirt. It's going to stay on there and help protect the skins, help them toughen up, dry out a little bit. Look at that beautiful harvest. All right. And then you want to just tuck them in, just like that. I mean, if you're really concerned, I've got another one here, you know, you can tuck them in this way. Now, what I'm going to do is then I'm going to take this and I'm going to take it actually into my garage and I'm going to leave them to dry out a little bit to cure for 7 to 10 days. Perfect climate would be not too hot, but not too cold, and high humidity. I don't know what it is about the high humidity. If you guys know, tell me, but that's something that's recommended. Well, I live in mid-Missouri. It's very humid where I live. So these are going to go in my garage again, 7 to 10 days. And then after that, you can store them long term. And let me show you how I like to store them long term. You want to get a box, again, cardboard box. I would probably, if I harvested all my potatoes today, I would use maybe a box like this. And then I think it's a great idea to store them in layers. Again, the box has to be breathable, so you want to punch holes. I haven't done that because I'm not going to store these long term, this batch at least. And then what I would do is I would line the bottom of my box with an old paper grocery sack, which I keep, reuse, recycle, repurpose. Then I would lay the potatoes like so, fill that up. If I had a big harvest, then I'd come in and then I would do another layer. And then I would close this box up. You want to make sure, again, it has lots of holes for aeration and keep them in the dark. This long-term storage would happen in a much cooler environment than the curing. I have a pantry in my basement that stays pretty cool. I would say 60-ish or so. And so I would just store them there long-term and then go down. You want to check on them, of course, because if anything didn't cure properly or there was a cut or a blemish or a rotten spot, you want to make sure by layering, you're not going to rot out the whole box. So that's a method for long-term storage. So that's about it. Potatoes and carrots, one of the easiest crops to grow and so much fun to harvest. Hey everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in the garden. I had so much fun bringing you along on my carrot harvest. I mean, look at those beautiful carrots. That is going to be so much fun to use those in my cooking. And my little potato harvest. I hope today's video gave you some ideas or maybe encouragement. If you've never tried to grow carrots or potatoes, you should. They are really quite easy to grow. Carrots, as I mentioned earlier, take some doing to get that seed to germinate early in the spring. But once you can figure out how to do that, oh my gosh, it is so rewarding. So what's left to do? I need to take these carrot tops over to my neighbor for her chickens and her critters to enjoy. Need to do a little cleanup. Gonna go up and I'm gonna rinse off all these carrots to get in the house. I'm not gonna cure my potatoes because there's not a ton in here. I'm gonna be using them in the next 2 or 3 days in my cooking. So until next time, I wish everybody out there happy gardening.